Hello and welcome to episode 2 of What's Goin' with Owen and Maggie. I am Owen.
And I'm Maggie.
And we are here to talk about comics, pop culture, and whatever the hell we want.
Yay!
How are you doing, Maggie?
I'm good. How's it going, Owen?
I've had the longest fucking week. I'm pretty stoked to be here talking about comic books.
Good. Okay, good. I was going to say I've had the longest day, and I'm hoping my brain stays on long enough to talk about comic books. So. Well,
you've got your beer, and
yeah, that always
got
helps.
Matching shirt, and we'll have a good time, even if we completely go off the rails.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so what have you been up to this week?
In the world of comic books, in the world, just in life.
Yeah.
I have recorded 4 other podcasts this week.
Oh, that was something I actually didn't want to talk about. I watched the finale of Stranger Things last night.
Well, but we can't talk about that, Owen, because I cannot talk about it. So you're just mean. You're just being mean to me now. You're like, I watched the finale. My husband did that earlier, too. He was like, so how much of it have you watched? And I'm like, 6 episodes. He's like, so I still can't talk to you? And I was like, no, stop.
But I will say that I have really, really been enjoying you and Natasha doing the coverage of it. It's one of my favorites that Natasha's done, for sure.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun doing it. I feel bad that we always have to sort of rush at the end because I have to get out of there to get to my kids.
It really doesn't come across when you're listening.
Okay.
Like that happened with Anton and Miles and Natasha doing Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Where
Miles would sometimes literally be like, gotta go to work, gotta go to work, gotta go to work.
Yeah. Yes, he did. No, for me, we've got a pretty decent chunk of time. So we're able to ramble a little bit at the outset, and during the podcast as well, we do a fair amount of rambling, I would say. But it's usually sort of like on-topic rambling, if that makes sense.
It really is, because you guys talk about, like, it's very much a show about growing up. And so you guys talk about your experience growing up.
Yeah.
And I just, like, shake my fist at your, like, permissive, understanding parents. I probably shouldn't vent too much about this because this is the first time I've done a show where my grandparents are like, you're doing a podcast now. And I'm like, yep. And I don't go into it anymore because I don't want anyone finding this.
Well, Krista, who is in the comments, can speak to my parents because she knows my parents very well. My dad was a teacher at my high school, and she...
Oh, no.
And Krista loves my parents. Krista loves my dad. He was one of her favorite teachers, even though I don't think she ever actually had him as a teacher. He was kind of around being a nerd. So my parents are great.
Is he like the awesome science teacher in Stranger Things?
No. He is like a weird creative writer, philosopher, computer guy. Kind of an interesting combination. So
I've seen your parents around on Facebook. They seem pretty awesome.
My mom is super awesome. My dad is weird but awesome. My dad, he posted something the other day that just made me laugh out loud. I think I sent it to Natasha where it was something about like a article. I can't remember what it was. It was some article about it was about Roger Ailes and Fox News or whatever. And my dad was like, yay, finally a reason not to watch Fox News. Wait, what's Fox News? And I was like, you're such a weirdo, Dad.
I wish my family didn't watch Fox News.
Yeah, I know. I came from a non-Fox News watching family, to put it lightly.
I
came from a Doonesbury reading family. So one of the things I grew up reading more than anything else was Doonesbury. Doonesbury, Bloom County, all those liberal comic strips.
I like the idea that when you were a kid, that was your news source.
It was Doonesbury. That's where I learned most modern American history, is from Doonesbury. Like, I would go to my mom, like, we had an old book of Doonesbury strips from, like, the very early 70s. And I would go to her and ask her about, like, Watergate. And this is when I was, like, 8. And so that's how I learned about it.
Man with the jowls.
Well, they never actually drew any of the presidents. The presidents in Doonesbury are always represented by different like different character, like icons, basically. So like, I think the first George Bush was a feather because he was supposed to be sort of like a lightweight, featherweight, and then Bill Clinton was a waffle with a whole bunch of butter on it because he waffled but also liked fatty food. And then George W. Bush was a feather with a cowboy hat. So it was like his dad, but Texan.
I have never, like, I have no frame of reference for Doonesbury, so I'm very confused.
Okay, it's fine.
I was lucky to be in high school when the Daily Show and Colbert Report were a thing. So yeah. I was very lucky.
Oh, yeah. There was nothing like that when I was, well, I mean, Daily Show started when I was, like, I guess the end of my junior year of high school, but that was Kilborn Daily Show. It was very different.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that means.
Oh, so Craig Kilborn was the original host of the Daily Show. There was a host of the Daily Show before Jon Stewart for a year. The guy from SportsCenter.
I've seen old clips of the Daily Show where Jon Stewart looks young, and it's weird.
It's fun. His suits are always too big, and
it was the 90s. What? You were around in the 90s. Why were everyone's suits so big back then? Because I love Seinfeld.
The pants are all pleated, and I don't understand. Yeah, Seinfeld had like crazy. The mullet would just get bigger and bigger. I think like season 5 or 6 was sort of peak Seinfeld mullet.
It's so perfect to me that Seinfeld is such a fan of Superman. So he had a mullet when Superman had a mullet. That's my headcanon for why he had that mullet.
That would make sense. That would actually make sense. But we could always transition from that into the fact the other thing that I did this week was watch the Killing Joke movie and read the Killing Joke book and let my 4-year-old read the Killing Joke.
Oh, that picture is so great.
Oh my God,
it would be so cute if I didn't know it was the Killing Joke.
I know, right? Well, I kept trying to take it away from him, and he was like, "No, I won't read it." But he can't read.
That isn't a fun book for a kid. There's no real action in that book. The art is gorgeous.
I know he was really into like the scenes with the flashbacks, and it's interesting
because those are less colorful, right?
Right, but his favorite color is red, and those pages, when they re-inked them for the most recent hardcover edition, the one that I got, they really focused on making all the colors muted except for there was something red in every panel. Huh. And I thought maybe that was what was catching his attention. I don't know. He's autistic. His brain is weird, so that might be a thing.
I'm curious as to what version I have of that, because that's something I have a hardcover of. I wonder if we have the same version. Because that's one thing I do remember about that is it's just a gorgeous comic.
Yeah. Yeah. So the comparison between the way that they sort of translated the art from the book to the DC animation style, I did not find to be successful. I thought it was, I mean, the art in Killing Joke is really dark. You know, it's kind of a very 90s grimdark stuff going on in there, like the fucked up dwarves, and he's like on a throne of baby heads and like all sorts of crazy shit. And when they do it in the movie, it just it's so cartoony, because of the way that the style is in the Batman cartoons. They just couldn't make it not look like, oh, look, he's on a bunch of baby heads. Like, it's just, there's nothing like meaty and dark to it at all. And like the dwarves, instead of being scary, just reminded me of Tim, Tom, and Kevin from Venture Brothers, who are not scary, or they're just weird dwarves in odd costumes.
Are those Dr. Girlfriend's little Muppets?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, so that's all I could think. So they weren't freaking me out. I was in the comic book. They're freaky. I'm like, why are there these like weird, like cherub dwarves like prodding poor Commissioner Gordon, and, like torturing him? But
don't they strip Commissioner Gordon down naked?
Yeah,
and like whip him.
Oh yeah,
do they do that in the cartoon?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh fuck! I heard it was actually. In content, like it's a very faithful adaptation.
for the most part, well, I mean, other than the thing at the beginning that's kind of got everybody all riled up. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is pulled straight from like panel by panel. It's very faithful. They left a couple things out. And what's interesting is I feel like they made the Joker's backstory really more understated than I read it. So I watched the movie first, so it's probably going to be the reverse of pretty much everybody who actually bothers to watch that movie, I would think.
Yeah.
Because I haven't watched the movie.
That's what I remember liking from the comic, is I really like the backstory stuff. And, you get a very interesting idea for what his backstory is, but then they're like, oh, but that might all be made up because I'm crazy.
Right, there's
like
that.
That's what I remember liking. I haven't read it since I was like 19. So it might be even more garbage than I remember.
Well, they just made him. I felt like in the book he was kind of a schlub and he was a failure, but he wasn't necessarily mild mannered. In the movie, they made him almost like, well, I guess I have to do the crime because I have to feed my wife. Like he's very like quiet and chill, whereas in the comic he's pissed off and like cranky at his failure and not just like, oh, everything's so sad, which is kind of how Mark Hamill does it in the movie.
Yeah. It's such a shame to me and seems like such a waste that this is Conroy and Hamill's last
is it really?
I think it is, yeah. Although Mark Hamill has threatened that,
He's threatened to do it a bunch of times.
What?
He threatened to quit a bunch of times, or is that what you're saying?
Yeah. He's threatened to quit several times. Not even like threatening, but basically like after he did, I think it was Arkham City, the video game. He was like, "Okay, this is my last one."
Well, he's getting old. He should be able to like sit and. Oh no! Don't tell me that. Ooh.
Okay.
You still look fine to me. Okay. I would say that also Hamill's voice work as the Joker is really the only good voice work in the whole movie. Whoever they have doing Batman is just so flat. There's like nothing. Batgirl is Tara Strong, and she's also very monotone. It's just, I was not impressed. I guess Gordon was okay. That was Ray Wise. Ray Wise always chews the scenery nicely. Ray Wise is the guy who plays the Roxxon Corp guy in Agent Carter. That's the best reference I can come up with for you, because he was on Twin Peaks. That's what most people... Am I gone? Okay. Am I here or am I not here?
You're here for me.
Krista can see me. Okay. Then I don't know what Carl's talking about. But yeah, whoever's doing Batman and whoever's doing Batgirl are really flat, and that makes the prologue piece of it in the movie that much kind of more obnoxious, because they add this whole piece that's supposed to be about her relationship with him and sort of making that more of a motivator for him, I guess. Like her being shot and raped isn't enough of a motivator if he hasn't slept with her, because why would he care?
The thing about,
like, it doesn't really make sense.
That's the thing about the original comic that bothers me, is everyone is getting so pissed off about this beginning, and to be fair, I haven't seen it, but the thing about the original comic is Batgirl is shot and raped, or you never see it's kind of implied that she's raped, but at the very least implied. She's definitely sexually assaulted. Like she's stripped down naked and has pictures taken of her, and while she's like weeping and crying, like that's what they show, and there's like blood on her, and and no one fucking talks about that. This is still like regarded as a masterpiece, and I think the comic, just from what I remember, is very well written and has amazing art. I still think there's merit to it, but I think that makes it very hard to enjoy at the very least. Like it's very problematic. I think it's as fucked up as the Sansa Stark scene from last season of Game of Thrones. And people try and give this comic credit for, making her Oracle, which I think, Oracle is fucking great. But what kind of man are you, Owen? Do you have feelings? I have no idea what that means. But, this comic doesn't deserve credit for Oracle. Oracle doesn't show up in this. Alan Moore wrote a story.
She does in the movie.
Alan Moore wrote a story that was, to be fair, intended to be basically like an Elseworlds, like a what-if story. It was never meant to be in continuity. But in that piece, Barbara Gordon is victimized and marginalized and never gets to have any kind of arc. She's a prop, a motivator for Batman, and really more for that than for Commissioner Gordon. And it's really fucked up, and it kind of, as much as I used to love the Joker, and as great as I think some of the Joker scenes are on this book, I think it really kind of makes the Joker hard to really have fun with.
I can see that. I think what the people who made the movie have said as their explanation for why they added the prologue in the movie was to make it so that there was more plot for Batgirl, so that she doesn't just show up to get shot and raped, basically, which is all she does in the book. But in doing that, they just make her, the whole first section is just her pining over Bruce, weirdly, with like her gay male best friend who she works with at the library. And it's weird. Like, I don't understand why the only way they can come up with any more character for her, and any more plot arc for her as a human being, is to make her like, why won't Bruce Wayne love me back? Which is basically it's 20 minutes of that, while some rando criminal becomes obsessed with her and stalking her, and he has to come save her from him. Like, it's really so glad I spent money on it, but what else was I going to do with it?
Yeah, that sounds worse than I thought then. I didn't know about all of that. Like, all I knew was that, Batman and Batgirl had sex, which, only knowing that.
You don't see much of it.
Right.
I mean, I would say it was even weird that the movie was R-rated. I understand, I guess, kind of why they did it, but there's, I don't know, I've seen people get shot and sexually assaulted in PG-13 movies. I mean, there aren't swear words. That's all that, I think it was, there are no boobies.
To be honest, the whole thing was announced after the Deadpool movie came out, when, everyone was just like, yay, R-rated superhero movies.
R-rated movies, yeah. No, I don't think there's really anything that warrants that, other than that it's dark material as far as that goes.
It's just, it sounds so unfun. And we talked about this on Facebook. I'm very bummed that is your first DC animated experience. Because Batman the Animated Series, I think it's a little overrated, but there are great episodes there, and it's a lot of fun. And I grew up watching it, so, I understand you saying the guy who played Batman was flat, but, that's the guy who voiced him in that cartoon. And I like that voice actor a lot as Batman. That's Batman in my head.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that the voice itself was bad. I'm just saying the performance was bad. The performance was,
and that
really,
could be the source material, totally, or just the fact that this guy's been doing this role for 25 years.
Right. He phoned it in a little bit. Well, and there is, so in the book, there's a implied musical number, basically, which you can tell because they have the word balloon is in sort of like squiggly outline writing, and the Joker's, it's supposed to be like song lyrics, basically. So they have a musical number in the movie where the Joker is like dancing around. Yep. And it's not good.
Well, Mark Hamill isn't known for his singing voice. He's such a good Joker, though, right? It's not just me and nostalgia, is it?
Oh, yeah.
He's so amazing.
Good. No, he's really good.
I tried to show Natasha some clips when we were doing our Star Wars podcasts, and I was like, this is Mark Hamill as the Joker. And I made her watch these clips, and she's like, okay. And I was like, oh!
I would not recognize his voice.
I know!
if I didn't know it, I know it's Mark Hamill. I've always, I've known that he's done that for a long time. I think I didn't know it. I must have learned when James Silent Bob Strikes Back came out because he was in that. That was when I picked up on the whole Mark Hamill doing voice work thing.
It's Mark Hamill. That's the only part of that movie I like.
So, yeah. But yeah, so he's great. And I wouldn't recognize it as I kept listening to it and trying to hear Luke Skywalker. And you can't. You really can't. He's really very in the character.
I just realized something. And it's that I probably knew Mark Hamill's voice as the Joker before I ever saw Star Wars. And I
gotta stop doing
don't
this
say that
podcast
to
with you
the
now.
This is over. Oh, he's.
I only have one beer in the house, Owen, and you're killing me right now. Like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Let me tell you this.
It's a beer.
I saw Star Wars.
Yeah, if you'll keep doing the show for me.
Are you able to purchase beer? Are you old enough to purchase beer? The Star Wars that I saw was taped off, I believe, CBS onto a Betamax cassette in 1982. It was airing on CBS, and the commercial interstitials had like interviews with characters from CBS shows, including the Flintstones. So it was the Flintstones being interviewed about how much they liked Star Wars.
So weird.
And they had a whole
aired in
like
the 50s.
introduction. No, yeah, but it was still in circulation. You have to understand, this is the 80s. They didn't have that much stuff to air. So they just kept bringing back the Flintstones. And it was one of CBS's properties, so they could do that. And it had a whole introduction that was set to people. It was like people dancing to the disco Star Wars theme song, like on roller skates. So people are roller dancing to the Star Wars theme songs, and then like showing the toys coming off conveyor belts and being put into boxes. And so this is one of my earliest like sense memories as a child. And I was like, all I know is the things I love most in the world are Star Wars, toys, and roller skates. It. And Betamax.
Now Betamax
that did it for me.
Than VHS tapes.
Yes, they are smaller. They only have one little roller thing. You probably don't even know what a VHS tape looks like.
I watched Back to the Future because that's one of my earliest sense memories. Is Back to the Future 1 was like a movie I would just put in and watch, which is weird to me because now knowing that there's like a weird like edifice thing going on in that movie, I wasn't picking up on any of that.
Oh no, I wasn't either. Actually, the first time I saw Back to the Future, my parents were really reluctant to let me watch it.
But everything
and it was
flies over your head.
Around the... Oh, yeah. And it was a couple years after it had come out, because it came out in 85, and the sequel came out in, I want to say, 89.
Part 2 came out in 89, Part 3 came out in 90.
90? Yeah, so I must have seen it in probably like 88 or something, and my aunt was like, I'm going to show Maggie Back to the Future, and my dad was like, really? I don't know about that. She's like, what? It's fine. I watched it. I didn't pick up on anything. Not
I don't even think I knew there was time travel in that movie. That's how young I was watching it. Like it was like, I remember thinking that Lorraine Baines is a weird name. And I remember liking the train from Part 3. Because that was the thing. My parents never let me watch Part 2 or didn't own it or whatever. And so
Because part 2 is fucked up, so I can understand.
Which is honestly,
Part 2 is hard to avoid the fucked upness of Part 2 because the whole middle section of Part 2 that we apparently are now living in is unpleasant.
No, that's why Part 2 is my favorite, to be honest, because I didn't know.
I agree. I wouldn't say it's my favorite.
I didn't know that it was a thing. I was like 13, and it came on the Disney Channel. I was like, what is this? Because I don't think I had rewatched any of the Back to the Future movies. It was just a thing that was like, in my brain. And then I was like, one of these that I haven't seen, it was like magic. And
then you were like, oh God, no.
Oh no, I loved it. I mean, you've seen me.
What What is Biff doing to her?
Oh, I didn't even pick up on how gross that was until I was even a little older.
Oh
because I was like,
I picked up on how gross that. I was terrified by the whole middle section when I saw it in the theater. Also, when I saw it in the theater, somebody had a seizure and had to be carried out on a stretcher. So that may also coincide with like my weird feelings about part 2. But I generally like things that are dark and weird. So it was awful. It was, and I was there with like a friend of mine from 4th grade, and we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden we see this woman in like the front row start convulsing, and we're like, are there ushers in movie theaters? Who do we talk to? We're 9. We don't know what to do.
We haven't been briefed on this.
We have no idea. I don't know why we were left here by ourselves in the first place. That seems like a questionable decision on our parents' part, but they didn't want to see this movie, apparently. I'm sure they were just like a theater over.
Watching
but
fucking When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, something like that. That was about the same time. That makes sense.
I'd rather watch Back to the Future Part 2, but I'm a giant dork. My favorite episode of Community is the one with the darkest timeline. So of course, Back to the Future is my Part 2 is my jam.
Which one with the darkest timeline? The one
where they roll the dice.
When they play the game and they roll the dice. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because that's the best episode of Community.
Natasha's like, I don't get why you like this episode. I'm like, but it's so good.
No, that's objectively the best episode of Community, and she's crazy because that's the best episode of Community. It may not necessarily be the most enjoyable to watch, but it's like strong. I personally love it, but I can understand why people would be like, "Oh, I don't know."
It's very repetitive.
But structurally, it's so well done.
It reminds me of that you watched How I Met Your Mother.
We just talked about that. I have. I've watched the majority.
Did you ever watch that episode where Lily and Marshall host a housewarming party, and they just do like sections of the movie that instead sections of the episode are just like take place in each room of the house?
I think so, but I don't remember.
It's a great episode that honestly reminds me of that episode of Community.
Is that the one? Is that the apartment they move into in Dowie
Tripla? No, that's after that. That's when they moved to the suburbs.
Okay. Yeah, then I don't think that must have been the point where I'd stopped watching it. I just always really liked that because I was living in New York at the time. And so when they figure out what that stands for, it was so perfect because that, like, when I moved to New York was right when they were renaming neighborhoods for real estate purposes. So like Nolita for north of Little Italy. And then they tried to make NoHo, which was sort of the northern equivalent of Soho. Terrible. But it was like 6 square blocks. I know, NoHo. And it was like 6 square blocks underneath Washington Square Park. That's all it was. But it was just not a neighborhood at all. Like I went there once and I was like, I don't know what this NoHo thing is. And I just walked around and I'm like, this is just apartments for kids from NYU. This isn't a neighborhood at all. There's nothing here. And I lived in Morningside Heights, which is what they called the part, Columbia basically renamed the part of Harlem that they wanted to let white people live in. So that it didn't have a scary name, basically. Like Harlem, everybody knows what Harlem is. We can't have college kids who live in Harlem.
There's a movie where James Bond goes to Harlem and it's supposed to be super scary.
Yes, I do mean where Matt Murdock never was, Krista. That is the neighborhood I am discussing.
Yeah, for any listeners who want to listen to Maggie's take on where Matt Murdock lives, go check out Unspoiled Daredevil. That was a fun podcast.
It's basically 13 episodes of me complaining about New York geography and how fucked up they got it. So it's a thing for me. But yeah, so downwind of the sewage treatment plant was pretty perfect because there's a neighborhood in Brooklyn called Dumbo, which is down under the Manhattan Bridge, down under Manhattan Bridge overpass. Wow. Dumbo. So it's a fancy neighborhood of lofts under a bridge, literally under the ugliest bridge in New York.
Under the Brooklyn Bridge? Oh, the Manhattan
Bridge. No, the Manhattan
I don't know what that
Bridge.
Looks like. I'm sure it's ugly.
I guess. It's not, I mean, saying it's the ugliest is not necessarily true. The 59th Street Bridge is probably uglier.
I know what those look like.
So Pumpkin has never been to DC or NYC. Are we referring to Owen as Pumpkin?
This is,
who are we talking about,
red,
Krista?
not orange.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Why
yeah.
am I pumpkin?
Okay. I don't know.
Is it because I'm cute and round?
No. Pumpkins aren't that cute. They're just big squashes. Oh, kitty.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my cat's being annoying. Anyway, what were we talking? What were we talking about? Bridges.
So we went from Killing Joke to Star Wars to Back to the Future to Community. Oh, to the person having a seizure, and then to Community.
I wanted to attach.
I
wanted to put a rider on that on that seizure talk because I have a similar reaction, but to a much less memorable movie. I remember a fire alarm being pulled when I was watching Shanghai Knights, the sequel to the Western starring Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson? No, I know
this
what
is the one where they go to London.
I'm aware.
Which?
So it's Shanghai Knights, but not in Shanghai.
Right. Well, Shanghai Noon isn't in Shanghai.
I have not. Okay, fine. I have not watched any. I don't think I've ever watched any Jackie Chan movie other than the first Rush Hour.
The first Rush Hour isn't a bad start. I mean, it kind of is a bad.
The first Rush Hour is a really good movie.
I mean,
it's not a good movie, but it's fun.
It's a late 80s or late 90s action movie. Chris Tucker is pretty obnoxious in it. Jackie Chan is...
My dad loves Chris Tucker, and that I don't understand. My dad had a real thing for Chris Tucker going for a while in the late 90s. Between that and Fifth Element, my dad thought Chris Tucker was the funniest guy in the world. I did not show him Friday. I did not think he would appreciate it, so I didn't ever get around to it. And then Chris Tucker stopped working. So.
Yeah, that is kind of weird to me that he just, what is he doing now? There were 3 Rush Hour movies.
I'm pretty sure he became a born-again Christian.
What? He went Christian?
I'm pretty sure he became you think he became a born-again Christian and stopped working, basically. Because the sort of movies that wanted to hire him would not fit with his new lifestyle. I seem to remember that back when I used to read celebrity gossip.
For any family members that might be listening to, I respect that decision. And I think it's very admirable and not boring at all.
Not boring. I like that. That's the major takeaway. So yeah, what have you been up to since I've gone on this long ramble?
I've read hardly any comics. I read some at the cigar store on Thursday, and I'm trying to remember what I even read. I read X-Men 92, which is... That is written by Chris Sims and Chad Bowers. Chris Sims is one of the hosts of War Rocket Ajax, which is a comic book podcast I listen to, which if you guys are listening to this so that we talk about comic books instead of for when we talk about just whatever else we've got going on, you guys might enjoy that. And it's a throwback comic to the entire goal of it is to be like the 90s cartoon. And like the crazy early 90s, like Jim Lee era of X-Men comics. But it's very kind of tongue-in-cheek about it.
And this is something that's coming out currently? It's currently being published?
It started out as a Secret Wars miniseries, and then became its own ongoing after that, because it was, I guess, popular enough, which kind of surprised me. But Chris Sims has been he started off as a comics blogger, and then he did the podcast. And after that, he's, I say after that, his podcast is ongoing, but he's also a writer at Comics Alliance, which anyone who's a fan of our Facebook page probably sees that is where I get most of my comic news. It's a very kind of progressivist bent to comics fandom, which I appreciate. So yeah, that is his series, and it's very goofy and pretty fun. It's no Spider-Man and the X-Men or
which I'm so close to being able to get to. I really want to read Spider-Man.
Are you a fan of, you've watched The Daily Show, obviously. Have you ever listened to the Flophouse podcast?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
The writer of that, Elliot Kalin, was the head writer for The Daily Show.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
How do you know about Elliot Kay?
Oh yeah, I know. Because he was the head writer for The Daily Show. I'm also a comedy nerd.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well,
I'm a newbie to the comics world compared to all the. I lived in New York City, like I said, in the early to mid 2000s, and so I was there for the big Daily Show boom and all the sort of up and coming stand-ups that then and sketch folks who have made it big. So like I saw Eugene Merman, I saw a zillion times. Dimitri Martin, I saw a zillion times. I saw David Cross do the weirdest improv shit of all time on stage. He was supposed to be a secret guest at some show that I went to that was Neil Hamburger, Laura Keitlinger, Todd Barry, Dimitri Martin, and Eugene Merman. And then all the hipsters knew that David Cross was supposed to be showing up at the end for like a secret set. And everybody was super excited. And I saw him walking around in the crowd and I was like, okay, David Cross is here. He was taller than I expected him to be. He's not tall, but I was expecting him to be very, very short. And he was only
shorter than you.
Normal short. Well, everybody's shorter
push him around?
He was.
You're taller than I am.
No, I'm sure I am. I'm taller than my husband is. I would say David Cross is also possibly a little bit taller than my husband. He was taller than Jon Stewart for sure. When I saw him at the Daily Show, Jon Stewart has the world's largest head. Like his head is physically like an entire third of his body, and then just a giant suit and like tiny legs. So David Cross was there, and everybody was super excited that David Cross was going to come out. And Patrice O'Neill, that's who else was on the bill. So Patrice O'Neill was there. He was getting heckled. So that was fun. And then David Cross comes out with a couple of other guys who were writers for Conan at the time, who I recognized. And they were all wearing rubber George Bush masks and stars and stripes. No, so they're wearing like American flag Speedos, like banana hammocks, and big rubber George Bush masks, and they start chanting "No blood for oil" and like pretending to fuck each other on stage. And they do that for like 2 minutes, and then they just like get up and run off stage. And my husband and I were just like, I can't believe we just saw that. And everybody in the audience was like grumbling. They were all like, I can't believe we came here to see David Cross and that's all he did. And I'm like, what do you want him to do? Just stand up there and tell stand-up? You can hear that on his album. We just got to see him do the weirdest fucking shit I've ever seen. That's way better than just like listening to do his comic album. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen happen in front of me. It was really bizarre. Really bizarre.
You had adventures.
No, I haven't. It does not take much to have adventures if you lived in New York City in your 20s.
The craziest thing that has ever happened to me in Denison, Texas is one time a guy spilled a hookah coal on me. That is as pulse pounding as it has ever gotten.
If I still lived in New York, I would have you come visit. But if I still lived in New York, it wouldn't be any fun. So I would be a boring mom in New York, and I'd be broke as hell. So that would not be fun.
Living in New York. I was actually talking before we started recording that New York is one of the handful of places I would ever want to visit, just because I've never been. And one of Natasha's friends lives in New York City. And if that happened, I would come like pound on your door and be like, "Hey!"
I am so far from New York City now, though. Rochester's really far from New York City.
Krista was saying it's like 5 hours, and I was like, I live in Texas. A 5-hour drive is nothing.
Okay, fine. Drive to Rochester. I'd be happy to see you.
But
no, it's just one of those things where, like,
with 6 crates of beer.
6 crates of beer and all these long boxes of comics.
Like, you really need to read this one. And you're like, God. So
I would not say, God damn it. I'd be like, yay, Owen's here and he brought beer and comic books. Make the children leave. I'm going to drink beer and read comic books. Yeah. No, feel free. I'm always here. Believe me. I don't go anywhere. Tomorrow I'm going to Buffalo. It's gonna be a real adventure. I'm super excited. I'm actually going to see my favorite movie.
Oh, that's right.
So,
You're going to go see Dark Crystal this weekend. That's something we can talk about.
I'm going to go see Dark Crystal.
I haven't seen Dark Crystal since I was probably 9 years old. And
so that was 5 years ago.
You're so funny.
I do think I'm so funny. No, okay, so 1999. That was when I first started dating my husband, was when you last saw Dark Crystal. So we'll put some perspective on that.
I actually remember the last time I saw it. I was visiting my grandma for the summer, and she was having a garage sale, and I was inside not helping because that's how visiting your grandma goes.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I remember watching it for the second or third time. I remember the visuals being amazing, but I think I was a little too young, at least the first time I saw it, to be like super into the story. I don't remember that well what happened.
It's a weird story. I just watched it. I think maybe you either have to watch it when you're super young, which is what I did, and have it like imprint onto your brain completely and utterly, so that you have it completely visually memorized by the time you're 5. So I could just act the whole thing out. I don't need to go see it in a theater. I can recite it from start to finish. I can do the voices. Like, I got it.
I remember there was a witch who could like hold her eyeballs.
That is Aughra,
which is pretty cool.
She is very cool. And yeah, so the end of it always makes me cry. So I'm looking forward to going and crying in a movie theater.
Just sobbing in public.
I don't cry much, so I need the catharsis. So the last time I went to Buffalo, I went with Dahlia to see The Last Unicorn, which is another one of my favorite movies from when I was a little kid. And Krista, I don't know if the battery acid thing is still happening. I have not cried since the last time that my tears felt like battery acid, so I will update you tomorrow after I see the Dark Crystal and cry. Because I will. So there's this fancy movie theater in Buffalo where I grew up, and it's like the movie theater my dad went to when he was a kid. Like, he told me he remembers seeing Fantasia in that movie theater. So it's this old Art Deco, cool movie theater. And they are doing this thing where they show old kids movies once a month. And so I took Dahlia to see The Last Unicorn. And I had been complaining about how I haven't been able to cry in months. Like, I just have not been able to like work up any sort of emotion. Like, this whole year has just taken so much out of me that I'm just like, I can't anymore. So the theme song starts playing. And as soon as the song starts playing, I just start like burbling tears. It was ridiculous. And my daughter is staring at me. And I'm like, it's fine, it's good. Fine, I'm cool. And it was cute. We were across the aisle from another family that was like parents who were about my age, and they had a daughter who was little, like 15 months, 16 months, something like that. And they'd just been walking down the street and they saw it on the marquee. And the mom was like, we have to go to this. This has to be her first movie. And so they brought her in to see it. And she got 45 minutes into it or whatever. And then just kept, she was walking up and down the aisles like, hi to everybody, which is exactly what my daughter did when I took her to see her first movie at that age. And so they felt bad and they got her out of there. And I was like, you are in exactly the right room for, nobody's going to begrudge that. Like, we're all here like out of nostalgia. Nobody's here like who has not seen this movie before. Let's be clear, except for maybe some of the other kids.
And that's like a kid's movie for like little kids to like see and have that experience.
I watched it when I was 3. Yeah, I watched that when I was like 2, 3.
Is it like
that was actually the first movie when we ever had on Betamax. My dad taped it off of Showtime, and I didn't realize that the Showtime version that I grew up watching is not the actual cinematic version. And so Krista and I actually had an argument about this in high school, because she told me that she didn't like that movie because she thought Mia Farrow's musical number was bad. And I was like, Mia Farrow does not have a musical number. She just does that duet with Jeff Bridges and she sounds great. And Krista's like, what are you talking about? She does her whole part of that. She does as a solo song. I'm like, I have seen this movie 100 times. You are incorrect. And we got in a fight about it. And then I didn't find out until it like came out on DVD when I was like 27 or something. And I was like, yay. And I brought it home and I was like, fuck, Krista Contino was right. I have apologized. I have already apologized. I've told you.
And you guys never talked again until that was cleared up.
Yep, we got into a fist fight and then never spoke again. And then I came crawling back and said, "Please forgive me." And she said, "Okay." And now
you're right about the last unicorn.
It's a happy story.
Isn't Christopher Lee the bad guy in that movie?
Yeah.
See, that's a movie I should see.
Yes,
because I try to make an effort to see every movie in which Christopher Lee is a bad guy.
He is. He is. I mean, he's also kind of a sad guy, I would say. I mean, the whole reason that he captures all the unicorns is because they're the only thing in the world that make him happy.
Aww.
He's a man who is completely incapable of feeling joy. It's very sad.
That's a very Christopher Lee thing to be, though.
Yeah.
That
slavery makes my heart sing.
What?
Are you talking about the unicorns being enslaved? Because they are unicorns. All right.
Christopher Lee did do a metal album.
He doesn't make them work. They get to like swim in the sea for all eternity. That's a perfectly happy life. I have no justification for what I'm saying. Fine. They miss their woodland friends. They do miss their woodland friends. That's true. But yeah, you should, I mean, it's one of those things where if you didn't see it when you were little, I don't know if it's actually a good movie, right. Whatever that is. But I made my children watch it when they were little so that it would, get stuck in there. So when I told Dahlia that I wanted to take her to see it, when it was out in Buffalo 2 months ago, she was like, yeah, I used to like that movie when I was little, but that time has passed for me.
Aww.
And I went, well, it hasn't passed for me, so you're coming. So let's go. And so I made her drive all the way to Buffalo.
You made her watch you cry.
I did. She enjoyed it. She likes it. It was just like, that used to be one of her favorite movies too when she was little, and then she grew out of it. And I'm like, don't grow out of it and watch.
I'm trying to think of a movie I grew out of, and apart from like things I thought were really cool when I was 16, I can't think of any movie that I loved as a little kid that I don't still love. Like if I went and saw The Iron Giant now, I would just sob in the theater. I'm kind of they did re-release it in theaters, and I'm kind of glad I didn't go because I've never just bawled in public, not as an adult.
Did you see Big Hero 6?
Yeah.
So they basically pull an Iron Giant at the end with that. So,
but it
so
wasn't
when we
as
went
good.
To see it,
it wasn't. It was almost.
No, it wasn't as good.
Was that?
You're right. It wasn't as good.
Brad Bird joint?
No, it wasn't.
Christo.
Oh, Krista, you can't do spoilers on movies that came out in 1997.
Krista, it doesn't matter. Go watch Iron Giant. We've ruined nothing. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, I'm about to ruin
it.
So, it is Vin Diesel.
It's Vin Diesel's best performance.
So at the end, when Dahlia got really upset about the ending of Big Hero 6, when they're in the dimension or whatever, and she starts realizing what's about to happen, she's like, "Oh no! Oh God, are they gonna be good forever?" And she started crying, and I'm sitting there going like, please do an Iron Giant. Please do an Iron Giant. Please, please, please have an Iron Giant reboot. Please, please. And then there was, miraculously. I was like, oh, yay. All the parts are going to go back to the pole or whatever. And so when he finds
that's
ship,
not what makes you cry in Iron Giant, though.
No, what makes you cry is the Superman moment.
That's literally what I said.
I know he says
literally what I said to Natasha when we watched it for the first time because she had never seen it. And I just look at her with literal tears just streaming down my face. I'm like,
you start going, Superman.
And then I had to leave the room.
I cry when I watch that, and I didn't see it until Dahlia was a kid. And the first time I watched it, and I don't even really love the whole rest of the movie, but that moment is very poignant. I mean, it's a good movie. It's probably a good movie, but
it's gorgeous.
It's a very, very good movie. But that
doesn't
moment,
address how terrible
even if you're
really were. But
no, it really doesn't. But even if you're watching it for the first time at 30, that moment is very moving. And then they do it in Wreck-It Ralph too. Did you ever see Wreck-It Ralph?
I don't.
That is so exactly the same thing.
But I totally choke up.
But I'm not wrong, right?
I am bad.
That's got to be an homage to the exact same thing. Yeah, and that's not bad.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That movie made me wish that Jane Lynch could be Captain Marvel, because her character in that movie is how I think of like a good Captain Marvel being.
Yeah, but she's too old. Brie Larson's too young, but Jane Lynch is too old. That's another thing that I. Dynamite Gal, the Laffy Taffy. That's a great one too. I really like Wreck-It Ralph. It's such
that and Megamind are probably like tied for my two favorite like geeky animated movies.
I like Megamind. Okay, I like Wreck-It Ralph a ton. Wreck-It Ralph is just so clever.
Like better, but like Megamind is more up
sentimentally.
Well, Megamind's just much more up my alley because it's like supervillain shit.
Yeah,
I love.
Yeah, that's true. I did read the first 2 issues of. Can we tell Krista that she can unmute now? I suppose I could do that. I read the first 2 issues of Captain Marvel, the new Captain Marvel, which is not so not new anymore. This is from like 2012 or 2013 or whenever it was that it started. So I read the first 2 of that.
Okay, what'd you think?
Today, and it was good. I'm interested to see where it goes. She's gone back in time, which I was not expecting, so that's cool. I'm sorry.
That sounds so bad. Like Power of Love is great, but Back in Time is like more thematic.
Back in Time is really bad.
But it's a terrible song.
Yeah, it really is. I actually like a lot of Huey Lewis songs sentimentally from my childhood.
They're not like
but
that's not amazing.
But Back in Time is a little.
But Back in Time is just like very like you can tell that they like probably wrote it in a weekend.
You're like, all right, we got to write a movie for this Back in Time movie. We got to write a song for
Back
it.
In Time was
what should we? Was the name of the movie exactly?
Did you know that Huey Lewis is in that movie?
Oh yeah. He's the guy who like auditions them for the Battle of Bands. Yeah.
You grew up in the 80s. You probably actually know what Huey Lewis looks like.
Yes, I do. Did you ever see the movie he was in with Gwyneth Paltrow?
No, that sounds awful.
Yes, it is. It's called Duets. It's very bad. Yeah, it's about like karaoke competitions. I don't remember anything about it because it was so bad that I think I tuned out halfway through. But if you ever wanted to hear Huey Lewis and Gwyneth Paltrow sing a duet of Cruisin', that's the movie you should watch. But you should not do that. The other comics that I read, I just read that whole run of Age of Apocalypse from like 2012-ish that spun out of X-Force and then ends up meeting up with Astonishing X-Men for this sort of Exterminators event crossover, like mini event crossover.
This has been since I've been reading comics that I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know, that's crazy.
So clearly it had no impression on the world of comics.
So yeah. Oh no. So remember how I told you that there was the series that I read that was Dazzler gathers up a team of like teenage Nightcrawler from a different dimension, Xavier's head in a jar from another dimension, Wolverine from like a different dimension who's in the past and he's gay and his boyfriend is Hercules.
That's right.
And Dazzler is in charge of this whole team. It's called Extreme X-Men.
That sounds like the book that was written just for me.
Okay, you should look at it then because it's insane. She's wearing something with like a star. Oh no, she steals somebody else's uniform. She steals the uniform of a different Dazzler from a different dimension, I think. They're from like a Dazzler, a dimension where Dazzler's like a rebel war hero person. Anyway, so basically they're going around to different dimensions trying to defeat a whole bunch of evil Xaviers to try and stop a giant dimensional rift from
That
happening.
sounds neat.
And that dimensional, it's bizarre. One of the evil Xaviers is a giant floating whale. Like, it's so weird. I don't know how much acid the people were on who were writing and drawing this shit. It was insane. And I just figured it was another X-Men thing, so I added every X-Men thing to my library on Marvel Unlimited. I get to that one, and I'm like, all right, well, this looks like it's kind of next up. And I start reading it, and I'm like, oh, Dazzler. I've never really seen Dazzler in anything because she hasn't really done much since the 80s, I guess. She's never done anything in anything that I've read. So let's read this Dazzler thing. And I start reading, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is any of this? So the Wolverine, I think, comes from like a dimensional time travel plot from Astonishing X-Men, which is another one of those ones that doesn't really cross over with anything. It tends to sort of be hanging out on its own with like North Star getting married and not really anything else happening.
Astonishing X-Men started as the book that Joss Whedon did.
The Joss did, yeah. So it was all about
Joss
Kitty.
Whedon. We are eventually going to talk about various
about Joss,
because Anton wants to do an episode with us where we talk about Grant Morrison X-Men, and after that, I feel like we have to follow it up with an episode on Astonishing X-Men.
Okay, can we also talk about Joss Whedon's run on Runaways? Because that means you'd have to read Runaways.
I just for that. I finally finished Joss Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men, so we can talk about the comic works of Joss Whedon.
Yeah,
without reading the Buffy comics, because who really wants that?
I have read those. You don't need to. I'm
not a big fan of Buffy.
Oh, I was once upon a time.
You're not anymore.
And I am of the one chunk of Buffy that's really good. I'm sorry, I said chunk. Natasha doesn't like when I say chunk.
Here.
I know, but she'll maybe listen to it at some point. Probably not this far into it. But yeah, season 2, season 3, parts of season 4, and then like one episode in each of season 5, 6, and 7 I like. But season 7 in particular, I absolutely can't stand season 7 of Buffy. I think it's some of the worst television ever. And season 5 I want to like, but there's so much about it that I find so cheap and lazy that when I hear people raving about season 5, I'm like, no, it's just like retrospectively, because the last episode of season 5 is good, but the rest of the season is garbage. It's garbage, because the girl playing Glory is terrible. Just awful, like unwatchable bad. And Dawn is annoying, and she comes out of nowhere, and they don't explain it for ages. And I was okay with that because I was spoiled, so I knew what the fuck was going on and who this kid was. But they left people hanging for like months. There were a couple months of people being like, who is this? How did we not know Buffy had a sister? I'm like, you needed to tell people the explanation before, like, I think it was like the 6th episode or something of the season. So there's this kid hanging around for 6 episodes. You're like, who is Cousin Oliver here? Where did she come from? Like, why do we give a fuck? And they don't explain it for episodes. And that must have been super annoying if you weren't already spoiled. Like, that was when I started spoiling myself for everything, was for Buffy. Long ago.
I don't know about...
That was one of the first things I was spoiled
I don't know
for.
anything about any of that. All I know is I quit in season 2 when Kendra the Vampire Slayer said, that's my favorite shirt. That's me only shirt.
That's me only shirt.
And I was like, nope, bye. And then I X'd out of the window and never again.
Okay, here's the problem. You stopped where you should have started.
I heard that.
You watched the, 20 really bad episodes.
I really like that one where they fight that computer monster.
Oh my god. That is, okay, objectively, I know there are episodes that are probably worse than that one, but that's my least. That one I think has to be the worst. I legitimately
enjoyed that episode because it was so bonker and bad.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. When the kid is just sitting there going, "I'm jacked in, I'm jacked in, I'm jacked in," over and over again. And I'm like, what am I watching? What is this? Because I didn't actually start watching Buffy until the last episode of the second season, and then I had to go back. And this was back before DVDs. So to get a hold of those, the first season they came out with on VHS. So I was able to watch those. So I saw that terrible episode. But then most of season 2 you could not get a hold of. So I ordered them from England, not knowing that there are different regions, like region 1, region 2. Do you know about this with DVD?
I knew that was a thing for DVDs. I didn't know it was a thing for DVDs.
It is.
Oh,
it is. It is. And oh my God. So I special ordered these things from Amazon UK, and they come, and I'm so excited because I'm finally going to get to see season 2 of Buffy. Except, I go and I put them in the machine, and like the video's all weird. Like it's just, it can't, the machines are set up differently so they don't process the actual video. And oh my God, it was so, and because this was before there was any way to know about that. Like this was in 2000-ish, I would say. So it's not like you could Google, regions on videos. You could, but I wouldn't have thought to do it ahead of time. It was just, I could, Krista, you're right. And I did once I got it, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with these videos? And it was not difficult to figure it out, but it wasn't the sort of thing where, like, if you go on Amazon UK, it didn't say, oh, these won't be playable in the US. The nice thing was, though, that when I returned them to Amazon UK, they screwed up the exchange rate, so I got back more money than I'd actually spent on the videos. So I'm calling that a bonus for my troubles. And so instead what I had to do was sit around and wait until... You said it in the same way that I said it out loud. It was agreement. Happy ending for the story, exactly. And then they ended up, they started showing reruns on like some, like on whatever the CW station was. We lost Owen. Okay, well, I'm going to keep telling my story, which is that I then sat and obsessively taped every single unlock seat. I don't want to have a locked seat. I'm unlocking the seat. Long story short, I eventually saw the rest of Buffy. And now, I don't know where Owen is. Krista, you want to talk about Serenity? Who is my favorite villain? Well, I enjoyed Spike. You mean like episode villain or major villain? Like big bad? Everyone make fun of Owen behind his back while he isn't here. He might still be here. That's the weird thing about Blab Trevor, is that a lot of times they can still hear you. I'm going to say Faith is probably one of my very favorites. But again, all the ones I liked were sort of anti-heroes. Or not anti-heroes, but they were villains that then ended up sort of coming to the good side. Or started out on the good side and went bad or whatever. So I like Faith, I like Spike, I like Angel. I like the ones that had moral ambiguity to them. I didn't have any interest in like Glory. Glory's just a god and she's evil.
You're talking about people bad.
No, I'm talking about Buffy in particular.
Like Urkel.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Like,
really nice to get someone. God, no, Trevor is watching a lot of Simpsons now because he has cable, and FXX just constantly runs Simpsons episodes. But that's a dumb, like that joke doesn't even make sense. But
no, it doesn't make sense, and it won't translate to anybody. You're too young.
I never watched anything. I was a kid when Simpsons was really starting to get great. So like I remember the episode where Lisa breaks Ralph Wiggum's heart. I remember seeing that live when I was like, 6. But where Lisa breaks Ralph
Where Lisa
Wiggum's
what?
heart. It's a great episode.
Oh, it's so
But
good.
like shortly after
I
that, my
love that
parents got rid of our
episode
TV.
so
I grew up without a TV, which is why I know so much about comic books.
Right. That's sad that you didn't get to.
Well, I've seen them all now. Like, don't worry, when.
Well, yeah. I stopped watching. I went to my college was one of the selling points for my college was the fact that everybody got together and watched The Simpsons on Sunday night, like the coffee shop at the student union had The Simpsons on. Every dorm, like the resident heads would have like Simpsons nights. Like this is the nerdiest school in the universe, basically. And so we would go and sit at our resident head's room and watch The Simpsons, but it was right when The Simpsons was starting to get bad.
Like,
and it was such a bummer to like go from like
10,
season
2011. Jesus.
No.
Sorry.
No. I mean like
2001.
No.
Okay. Season 10 is the last acceptable season.
Yeah. So.
Which is why I have seasons 1 through 10 on DVD.
Exactly. So I started. Yes, so do I. So it was I remember my first year was the season that had, I remember the first one I watched that I was like, there is nothing good about this episode was the one with Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin and Ron Howard.
I like that episode, but
that
is a very sign of the times kind of episode.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like they were all like every week it was like, here's the new celebrity guests that are going to be on The Simpsons. I'm like, but why though? Like, can't they just have a plot? No, they can't anymore. And then the one that was really the beginning of the end, sort of the nail in the coffin, was the Land of the Jockeys episode, which I actually really am entertained by the Land of the Jockeys episode because it's so bad. Oh my God, it's so bad, Owen.
Okay.
It's season 11. It might. It's either season 11. It might even be season 12.
Hardly any past season 10.
It was one of the last ones that I saw like live on TV. Like it happened to be on a Sunday night. I think after I'd moved to New York at that point. So it must have been in 2001. And I was like, yep, I think we're officially done with The Simpsons. Because what is this even?
Yeah, I had this weird thing where...
But before that, I have them all memorized. So there's a real drop-off between every line memorized and done.
I've always heard that.
I got nothing, yeah. Mrs. Flanders died when I was still in college. That was, I think, my second year of college cannon, when she got shot with the NASCAR T-shirt cannon. Yes. So that was, I think, my second year of college because I think I was still living in that dorm. That's my guess. And then Flanders married Mrs. Krabappel, and then she died.
The actress died.
Because
did the character actually die in the show?
Died, so they well, I know not on purpose.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
I remember when they wrote Chef out of South Park.
So
that was fucking crazy.
Because he was a Scientologist. He was pissed off.
I don't know if I'll ever watch a South Park again.
Oh, so good. It's been a while since I've watched a new South Park. When they're good, they're so good, but it's been a long time since they've been any good. I was talking to a friend of mine about the World of Warcraft episode recently. Have you seen the World of Warcraft episode? I love that episode. It makes me laugh so hard. When his dad gets addicted to it, and but he's terrible at it. So, and they have like a Rocky style montage, but it's to a Peter Criss song called "Live to Win," which, So I actually bought that CD for Sega for Hanukkah that year because I thought he would find it funny, and he was just like, "Why did you spend $12 on this? Like, take it back." And I'm like, "Because it's the song from the South Park episode that we laughed at." No, they do. Okay, Krista asked, they have to have a Pokemon Go episode in the works. They were asked about that, they were asked about that. And they said, yeah, we already did a Pokemon Go episode. It's called the Chin Pokemon episode. And we did it like 20 years ago. And because that was my exact reaction when the Pokemon Go thing started, was I was like, you got to buy him. You got to buy him. And all I'm thinking, because there were all those stories that came out, sort of like joking stories about how Pokemon Go is just like a government tracking device, like data gathering, whatever. And I'm like, they're trying to get you to bomb Pearl Harbor. That's
I won't do the voice of the lady.
Chin Pokemon. Oh no. But yes, we know what it sounds like. Jesus. I'm hearing it.
That's
in my
what
head.
I was like.
You're hearing it in your
Trevor
head.
is saying he wants a shoe Pokemon so bad. I got a shoe.
A shoe. I got shoe.
That's a funny episode.
Oh my God.
Trevor,
I like that
Trevor
episode a lot,
explaining
actually.
that episode to Natasha, because Natasha, I don't think ever watched South Park and never played Pokemon. So he was like explaining this episode, and he was like, it's still one of the very few like great episodes that hold up. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like the small penis jokes in that episode. So small.
So very small. You weren't supposed to do the voice. Don't do the voice.
I'll just fondly remember the episodes of South Park. I don't know. I could maybe show Natasha the episode where they go skiing. I don't remember anything objectionable in being in that. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one where they're going to have
Stan
a bad
Marsh.
time.
We're like Stan
Gonna have
Darsh.
a bad time. Stan Marsh.
Oh, man.
Stan Darsh. Okay. And we're done with that. Because
I enjoy it when they parody crazy shit from my childhood, like bad 80s movies or...
yes, exactly. Yeah. And that was the one where they, like, didn't he keep bringing out a record player and it would start playing a song and then he would be like, Stan Marsh thought that this was just going to be a regular skiing trip. And he's like, what? What's going on? Anyway.
I've talked very little about comic books.
I'm
wearing a Deadpool shirt. Did you see the Deadpool movie? I never talked to you about it.
I did see the Deadpool movie. I would like to watch it again. I've been meaning to get it because my husband has not seen it.
I really liked it, but the middle part where he's being tortured was so unbearable that I didn't see it again in theaters, and I haven't seen it since. It was really surprisingly dark.
It didn't bother me that much. It was.
Yeah.
You were surprised it was that dark? You weren't expecting it to be that dark?
It is, but they usually don't go into it. I say they don't usually go into it. And none of the runs of Deadpool I've ever read have really gone into it that much in depth.
That's fair. I have not really read too much of Deadpool on his own. So I think I saw it in Wolverine comics, basically. Like there was some run of some Wolverine book that I read that detailed
you know the arcs I recommend.
Shebang.
But the Evil Deadpool arc is great.
Deadpool?
That's the one where a stalker is...
I am trying to work my way all the way through it. I've read like 20 issues.
Okay, and you said you actually didn't care for that much, did you?
It was fine. It was fine. I didn't dislike it. I don't like Cable.
Is in that arc just because he's got something to play off of.
Right.
But
no,
Evil Dead.
I don't know. Cable bores me. Cable's
90s
boring.
Anti-hero chin stubble. Yeah,
he's not as bad as Alt Cable though. So
this is going to be a recurring theme of episodes. Really, guys, go read Worst X-Men Ever. It's the best.
Worst X-Men, which is still not on Marvel Unlimited, and I'm so mad. I thought they were, and I looked for them yesterday, and I couldn't find them. Maybe they're just listed under something weird. Because I went under worst, I went for W. I assumed that would be the place to look, but I could be wrong.
They do. It's
they
sometimes
file
really
things
hard
in
to
weird
find
places. I'm like, why would you list it that way? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, if you want to read something weird that you have not read before, Go with Extreme X-Men. That's the Dazzler
That
one,
sounds
because
really
that
fun.
was bonkers.
There's this like
real
early
weird.
2000s series that I have a few trades of called Exiles, which is very similar. It's basically just a team of X-Men, but they're all from alternate universes, like teaming up. And that was really fun. The art is really like bad.
The art in this was fine. I also didn't mention that there is a black steampunk Cyclops who makes out with
That
Dazzler.
sounds great.
I know.
Black Cyclops is everything I want in life.
Black steampunk Cyclops. I'm not even kidding. It's just
best
crazy.
alternate universe Cyclops since Scoot Summers.
Yeah, I don't know. I could do this a time when we're not actually recording. So there's not enough acid in the world to make that make sense. Best anything Cyclops is still Cyclops. Krista's on my side. Krista and I
Wait, so you were pro Cyclops or
Cyclops thing, because Cyclops.
Oh, right, okay.
Anti-Cyclops.
Yeah. That's why
Cyclops is the
That's
worst.
why I really love
He's not the worst. He's just
worst X-Men ever table
I'm looking forward
in worst X-Men ever. It's just like all of these like obscure, terrible X-Men, and then just Cyclops sitting there, and he's like old and has like thinning hair, and his caption is just "Admit it, you hate him too."
Yeah. Krista, this is an ongoing debate that I have had with Brendan Doherty, who I assume you might recall a little bit from Nichols, but he may have just been right outside of your time frame. But we have had literally this debate about Cyclops for 2 decades. And I didn't even like Cyclops enough to have a position one way or the other, just like based on the first movie, I was like, oh, he's a douche. And Brendan's like, no, because he's the only one who will take responsibility for bleh. And I was
is his favorite Ninja
so
Turtle
boring,
Leonardo?
so unbearable. Leonardo, it is, and we have had this debate too.
I like Cyclops, but he is not my favorite.
No, Cyclops is his favorite, Leonardo is his favorite, and I like Wolverine and Raphael, and he finds that just morally objectionable. And I'm like, sorry, what can I say? They're cooler.
I like Michelangelo. He's a party dude.
He is a party dude.
He was Corey Feldman in the movie, which is weird.
He was Corey Feldman in the movie.
Yeah, that is funny. But well, if you go off of the movie, like, who's the actor who played him in the movie? James Marsden.
Oh, I don't know. Chris Cross. Yeah, great. James Marsden. Yes, Marsden.
You got lost on the way.
No, because James
Spike.
Marsters
he's also
Spike from Buffy. So I have to.
Oh no! They're right. Corey Feldman was Donatello, and
told.
I somehow forgot because I've had too much champagne that Donatello is actually my favorite Ninja Turtle. He does machines.
I like Donatello too.
He's a real.
Yes, I would say Raphael, Donatello, Leonardo, or not Leonardo, Michelangelo, and then Leonardo is like
with Cyclops,
way down the list.
Cyclops is also your least favorite
with
Ninja
Cyclops.
Turtle.
Cyclops is my least favorite Ninja Turtle. He's my least favorite Justice League member. He's my least favorite Endless.
My least favorite Scottish
Justice. Least favorite everything. He's my least favorite Spice Girl.
I'm having a real fun time imagining Cyclops just with two groups of people in his like terrible 90s costume with the underwear on the outside and the weird suspenders.
Yes, it would be so good. The suspenders. Oh, Lord. All right. It's getting late.
This was a lot of fun. Should I do Underdog Redemption or should I wait till next time? Oh, I've got it in mind. I've even got a visual companion this time with pictures. Okay, let me pull it.
All right, let's do it.
This is actually one of the ones that I knew right off the bat that I was going to have to do because this is one of my very favorite obscure characters, and actually my first like entry DC character as far as comics goes, because I never really read DC Comics as a kid, with the exception of the series called The Golden Age, which is kind of like Watchmen. It's set in the DC universe, and it's kind of a deconstruction of old characters. This is my favorite speedster, which is also objectively just one of the coolest superpowers. Like, you've got the Flash, who I don't think has ever been done great. Like, the CW series is pretty good, but not amazing. And you've got Quicksilver in the movies, who is always like pretty cool. But this is my favorite speedster. Let's see if I can get my screen sharing to work. Share. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, this is Johnny Quick. And Johnny Quick is a Golden Age character. You can tell by his very plain, not quite together costume. And
and his gloves don't quite reach his sleeves.
Shirt with like a wing emblem. I guess I should describe this for our audio only listeners. And just very basic. Like, he's got the undies on the outside, and he's got like it's all yellow and red. He has a very modern looking mask. Like, I feel like that's the kind of mask design that like everyone in the 90s had. But his gimmick with super speed is that he doesn't have like he came out at the same time as the Golden Age Flash, but the difference with Johnny Quick is Johnny Quick was taught the speed formula, which is a scientifical like math formula that gives him super speed when he recites it.
Wow,
I love that so much. He just recites it.
So he has to recite it, and it makes him go fast if he says it out loud?
In parentheses, 9YZ, and then 4A. And he says it, and he has super speed.
How often does he need to say it to, like, renew the super speed? Like, every time he stops,
once he recites
does he have to say it again?
He has super speed, and then he has a off formula that he recites to turn it off. Which I don't know why I love that much. I just love the like very comic booky idea that super speed can be reduced to a mathematical formula. It's such a golden age like 1940s idea that I wish he would get like be in more things. But the reason I really like him is because he was the point of view character in The Golden Age, which is a great like 90s Elseworld story, which is about them like after the Golden Age, and they're like sad. But also he married a female superheroine named Liberty Bell, who also has a very 40s design, and her powers.
Wow! Oh yeah, that bell's not distorted by her boobs at all.
Her powers come from the ringing of the Liberty Bell. She gets like super strength and super toughness and stuff. But
so why is she saying the super speed?
Well, that's
formula?
The thing. They had a daughter that was named Jessie, and she Jessie Quick, and she has the same powers as both of her parents, and had a very ridiculous costume in the 90s with very, very small shorts. But
and her feet seem disproportionately small, but that might just be like she's got weird Ugg boot things happening.
Well, and also it was the 90s when no one had feet. But she later took on her mom's like code name and became Liberty Bell, but also had the speed formula.
The speed stuff. Got it.
Which, that is part of my very favorite. My favorite super team is actually the Justice Society, which is like the Golden Age superhero team of the DC universe, which was like all the older characters like mentoring like younger characters. And I really liked Jessie Quick in that as Liberty Bell, because she had that ridiculous math-based super speed power that I find so enjoyable. In addition to being super tough.
How many families of superheroes are there that you can think of off the top of your head? Like, I mean,
you mean like generational?
Yeah, so I mean, there's the Summers Gray nonsense.
Yeah,
that,
which is like one giant clusterfuck.
Whatever, yeah. I'm like, how is Rachel related to what? Who? Then the Richards, obviously.
Right. Which is another favorite of mine. I really like the Fantastic Four, partially for that angle. There is the Quick family, which we just talked about. There is Starman, which I've never read but need to because I know I'd love it, which is like 2 or 3 generations of characters named Starman. There is the Huntress, who is originally was the daughter of Batman and Catwoman. I don't know. There's a lot, man. You put me on the spot.
I'm just trying to think of who else there is in
Marvel.
Well, I mean, there's like Wolverine and Daken.
Boo.
Yes.
Oh, Black Panther, Krista says in the chat, which is a good point. Because that's
point.
like multi-generational spanning.
Well, sure.
My favorite Green Lantern, Alan Scott, the Golden Age one that has nothing to do with anything else.
Oh, Cassie Lang.
Cassie Lang. Yeah. I mean, I guess not most of the Young Avengers.
Well, because then there's like, because there's Magneto's whole family. Hulkling is Hulkling's a Skrull.
But he's Captain Marvel's kid also. But I can't remember I can't remember if it's the actual Kree Marvel or if it's the Skrull Marvel who thought he was. I need to read that series as much as I love Captain Marvel.
Well, there are 2 Young Avengers who are the fake daughters or fake sons of Wanda Maximoff, like the ones that she thought that she created out of nothing, but then there they are, which they never really explained particularly well. And one of them is dating Hulkling. Warlock, right? Isn't that his name? And then the other one who's like, and then like the little mini Quicksilver kid. Yeah, Magneto and Wanda and Quicksilver.
Wiccan. Okay, I thought you were talking about the New Mutants character, and I was like, his dad's a villain though.
Yeah, no.
And I don't like it when it gets too convoluted like that. Like I generally prefer for like
anything involving Wanda Maximoff, basically. You
exactly. Don't like and that's half of that has to do with rights, and half of that has to do with twists. And I don't really like either of those. Like I like that Jessie Quick is just the daughter of 2 Golden Age superheroes, and she's just a badass. And has I mean, as much as we made fun of her most common superpower, completely distorting her chest symbol, I like that she has an outfit, or eventually got an outfit that isn't like, the booty shorts.
Yes.
Which is
I appreciate that.
I mean, as pro booty shorts as I am, like it's vaguely embarrassing.
My friend Karen sent me something today saying she's been reading Civil War 2, and she says that much like in Civil War 1, there's a ton of butt shots, like super lady butts, but also lots of dude butts. And good. I'm like, well, at least it's like equal opportunity butts. And so I'm like, Civil War 2, the buttsining. Like it's just apparently it's just nonstop butts in that series. I'm not super excited to get to it, but
let me know how that is in 6 years when we are still doing the show. I'm holding you to it.
Hopefully I will get to it in less than 6 years, given
I'm holding you to doing this show in 6 years, not reading the comic in 6 years.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I'm just saying, since I read like 10 years worth of comics in 1 year, I think I could get to Civil War 2. I mean, especially since my kids are going back to school, I got nothing but time. I mean, I should probably do other things
You'll either like lose interest in comics out of boredom, or like resort to reading like DC or like 70s comics, which either way will be very interesting. Well, not either way, because if you lose interest in comics, I'll never forgive you.
Oh, I'll try.
Let me just talk about Buffy. I guess if you lose interest in comics, I'll bite you and watch Buffy.
You'll have to watch Buffy. Then we'll just do a whole podcast that's just talking about Buffy and The Simpsons.
We'll just both be very resentful.
All right. I got to go to bed on. I'm so tired.
That's fair. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to talk about Johnny Quick and Jessie Quick.
Yay. All right. So come up with... next week we're not going to do one because it's book club next week, right?
We won't do one on Saturday. If you are available Sunday, I'd be down to do it Sunday, but that's up to you.
I can see it may not be feasible because Segev's traveling, and I think he comes back that night, and he's taking a train. So I don't know if I have to go pick him up somewhere. I don't know what's
going on with that. You could get him one of those collapsible Razor scooters to keep on his carry-on bag.
I could. I'm not gonna, but I could. He does have a collapsible bike, so
nice. One of those. I've been thinking about doing any kind of exercise for a while.
I have started doing that. It's delightful because then I can rub it in my doctor's faces and be like, "You told me exercise can make me feel better. It don't. I feel healthy and strong, and that's great, but I'm still in a shit ton of pain." So
yeah, you look very impressed. You look like you could completely kick my ass in that picture you posted. I'm very impressed.
But now I'm tired because I worked out all morning, and then I dealt with children all the rest of the day. So
yeah,
that's the plan.
Yeah, Tasha and I joined a gym, but we have yet to go.
That's sort of how it works for like the first few months at least.
Yeah.
Like I joined a gym and didn't go for a while.
I love the gym we joined. It's very like it looks like a gym from Rocky. Like it looks like Matt Murdock's dad's gym. It's like got what looks like bullet holes in the wall. Like, oh,
awesome!
I love the look of it, but
rough and tumble.
I am also very low energy just as a person and work all the time. So
right. Yeah, that's the hard part. Is my husband's never gone to the gym. We have a family membership. He has never gone. He went once and stayed with the kids in like the play area. So I don't know why I'm paying for him to belong, but my gym is totally the opposite. It's all 65 and up Jewish men, basically, and then and some women, and then like random like 20-something really buff guys who are not particularly athletic but just want to like hang out and lift weights at the Jewish community center for some reason. Play games.
That's why I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to hang out with muscular men.
No.
They intimidate me.
They intimidate me, so I don't want to hang out with them either. I'm like, I'm just here on my bike. Can you go elsewhere? I don't like you looking at me, young men. Sorry. It's weird. That's my own issue. Anyway, I'm going to go to sleep.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You can like us on Facebook and like us on Twitter or follow us on Twitter, whatever the terminology is. You get it. Just search What's Going or What's Going with Owen. You'll find us. And thank you, everyone. I will try to make this a podcast type thing, but I have to learn how to do that. So
we're getting a lot of requests.
I really like that we are like that. That's very encouraging that people are interested.
Right. They may not be once they actually listen to it, but you never know.
We'll figure out how to make this more engaging, probably.
Yeah. Well, hopefully me not being quite as exhausted as I currently am will help. Yeah. Right now. I'm
school season. That'll help.
A little ragged. It will, because my children will not be here. That will help. All right. Well, they will be on Saturdays, but you know what I mean. I'll get like time to rejuvenate. Yeah. The weekends are the opposite for parents as they are for children. Weekends are hell.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Oh my God. There's no like TGIF. It's like totally the opposite. So awful. All ruined.
There needs to be a restaurant called F. No!
Yeah, there should be. There should be. And it's all just like really strung out parents. It's like 3:00 on Fridays, and we're all like slamming tequila shooters. I'm like, oh God, it's about to start. Okay, we have to go now. All right, I'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thank you, Maggie. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you next week, possibly, or 2 weeks from now. So, thank you, everyone, for being here, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.